a microphone.
Director of Athletics here at Gulliver Prep. Before we get started, Scott Davidson, our state champion. Thank you for being here today.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
I did.
I think it's fitting that Laz and Connie asked me to come talk about the subject that's the most confusing and causes the most stress in any given year. They always mention those situations. But it's a really, really interesting topic because it means so many things to so many people, right? Some kids are interested in the notion of playing college athletics. Some kids are interested in the notion of dominating Division I athletics. And all those kids go to Gulliver. And so the biggest challenge certainly that I have as a coach is trying to understand for each child what exactly is the right, not only outcome, but I think pathway. And that pathway is very complex and it's very confusing, sport by sport, person by person, goal by goal, and desire by desire, right? For me, and most of our soccer athletes, what they're really trying to do is figure out how to get to a little bit of a more competitive college than they might otherwise get to and play soccer because they really like it. We have a soccer program that looks a lot like a college soccer program. For other athletes, they've got a completely different set of goals, and there's no one right set of goals, there's not one right set of answers. But what there is a lot of preparation and a lot of planning and a lot of thought process that you need to put into the process to figure out what's right for you. Because what's right for someone else may not be exactly the thing that's right for you. And you don't want to shoehorn yourself into that process. The other thing that's a little confusing is there's lots of different points of information. There's the Gulliver points of information, which to me are fundamentally some of the most non-biased, most disinterested, the ones doing their best to give you information. There are outside coaches who have real reasons for why they care. Sometimes they're great reasons, and sometimes they can be a little bit more confused. Sometimes they may not understand the U.S. college system quite as well as we wish they did. And then you've got outside counselors and advisors, believe it or not, agents, and a whole range of people. And you can guess when someone's called an agent what their motivation is, right? It's a financial motivation. So as long as you understand what all those things are and you're early into the process, I think it's a super navigable process with a lot of help and a lot of questions and not something to be afraid of. Coming into it late in the future. And I'd say the biggest problem with the process is at the end of the day, the college athletic recruiting process is a function of what a coach wants in their program at their university. It may not be true that the chancellor of that university would 100% agree with what that coach wants in his or her program. It may not be true that the player that person wants is exactly the human being that everybody would want to go to that university or that program. So you have to understand that it's not, at the end of the day, a judgment about you as a person. It's not a judgment about you as a player. And you have to use it as a process, or see it as a process of what I would describe as one of law of large numbers, right? You need to find a lot of potential universities and athletic departments that make sense for you, so that you can find the one that ultimately fits you, and not hope that, you're going to be the one person that, the school that you absolutely love is sure that you're the right place to go. But one of the things I love about being here at Gulliver is the resources that we have, I think, they're unparalleled. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. They're unparalleled in terms of the ability to help you. And the challenge is to make sure that you're availing yourself of them, make sure that you're reaching out. We've got an incredible staff. I've seen it in action, and I can't speak more highly about what they do. So on any front, you can always reach out to me if you have any questions, because I spend a fair amount of time with college coaches, but obviously you've got much better people than me, and I just hope everybody has a great time. So thank you all for coming.
All right, so what options do your children have? There are two national organizations. We're all very familiar with the NCAA. They have 3 divisions, and then the Ivy League. The difference between the Ivy League and the 3 divisions, the Ivy League does not give athletic scholarships. It's all need-based financial aid. The NAIA has 2 divisions, And it's similar to the NCAA, and you can get the same opportunities. Some of our student athletes forget that there's another opportunity besides the NCAA. I'm an NAIA athlete. I went to Taylor University in Upland, Indiana, and I got to sit the bench for 4 years on the basketball team, but we had a lot of success and it was fun to practice every day and get a very nice financial aid package so my parents didn't have to pay for college. So what is a recruit? A recruit is a student athlete from a high school that another college or coach is interested in you. What's a preferred walk-on? There are schools and universities that will give your child the opportunity to be on the team, but you may have to pay or they get a financial aid package. That happens very often. We have a few student athletes here from Gulliver that are PWOs. Or you can go try out and make the team, and then, obviously you have to pay to attend the college. These are all very important. Division I, highest level of athletics. Division II, very high level athletics for student athletes. Some colleges are high academic, some of them may not be, but the opportunity is there to get an education. Very high opportunities there. Just to give you something familiar, Barry Universities and the Sunshine State Conference, they're Division II. Division III, no athletic scholarships, all need-based financial aid. If your student athlete does qualify and has high academics, obviously here at Gulliver we provide those opportunities. There's definitely opportunity for your child to get an opportunity to play at the Division III level or any of these levels. Obviously you guys know that we have placed student athletes at all these levels, including the NAIA. Communication from your child to prospective colleges. 9th and 10th grade is very different than 11th and 12th grade. A 9th and 10th grade student athlete can email coaches, can email the recruiting coordinator. The recruiting coordinator is a person that's designated by the head coach or the university to recruit student athletes to their team. Okay? So that's pretty much the most important person that if you're a 9th or 10th grader, you want to get noticed at any university, you should probably email that person, send them your video, send them a nice email. This is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. Anything that you can say about yourself will help you. You can send them emails. They have interest forms online. Text. We do not get into text until we get into our junior and senior year. Your child becomes a recruitable student athlete that they can talk to the college going into the summer of your 11th grade. Other than that, they may call you, the parent, but there's no communication between the student athlete and or the coach. How do you get identified? Well, most of you spend your summers traveling around the United States of America, going to different showcases or identification camps. That's a good thing because colleges get to see who you are, get to see your child, who they are, and what they can do. But at the same time, you have to be aware of what is it that they're trying to accomplish or gain from your child. Are they just wanting you to attend the camp because they want you to pay for it and it helps fund their program? Or are they really interested in your child? And the way that you could have an idea of that is between 9th and 10th grade, and sometimes this does happen at the middle school level. The university that's interested in your child will start sending you emails, US mail, beautiful digital graphic design to really entice your child to get interested into your school. And that's important because you're actually being interested in your child by sending you all this information. And then the other side of that is that you may be a recruitable student athlete, and that Division I school, that Division II school, that Division III school may not be interested in your child, but again, you continue to communicate to them because it's very important that you want them to reach out to you. These are important. This is how you guys do the work to get identified. On the other side of it, You know, they're going to these identification camps or these showcases to find out what talent pool is out there. Some colleges are regional, they don't get to travel nationally, some of them are national recruiting universities, and they're looking out to find the best possible student athlete that will fit their program. Scott alluded to that. They're looking for the best possible student athlete to fit their program. If your child is really interested in a high-level academic institution, they'll ask for transcripts because they want to know how they're doing, especially at the Division III level and the Ivy level. They'll want to know in advance at the Patriot League level. They want to know in advance where you stand, where your child stands from an academic perspective. So, from an overall point of view, these are the important aspects of how to get your child identified. It's going to happen two ways. You can communicate and let them know who you are, and then secondly, they'll come looking for you.
Who is the person you email to?
The recruiting coordinator or the head coach.
Okay.
Now the wonderful Sarah Campbell.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi. I appreciate it. So I'm going to talk about kind of things from, I'm a college counselor, so from that perspective, how recruitment can open doors for college purposes. So I think Mr. Davidson spoke about that a little bit too. So it's going to be different for each student. If you're being looked at by a college for athletics, that obviously can open the doors for you. If you're a high-level athlete, if they're looking for, you know, that specific type of player, that position, that can open a door for you. Okay. But I think the misconception is that it's going to just completely open doors, right? And it's not just an open door policy. So that's one of the kind of the things we kind of want to talk about today. Okay. The most important thing I think your student can focus on now is getting good grades and focusing on what's happening in the current moment, okay? Because colleges are obviously going to look at video and talk to coaches, but they're also going to look at grades, transcripts, and see how you're doing. And as the two people who spoke before me, there's a variety of levels that you can go into, and so there's different factors. It's really important that students learn to balance their academics with their athletics when they're in high school. I was actually talking to a student who plays at UVA today, and he was telling me how it was really difficult in high school, and he did a lot, but he still went to bed early and had time for other things. In college, it is such a different experience, right? He is waking up, he said at 5 in the morning, he has tutoring before school, then he has workouts, then he has class, then he has more tutoring, okay? So learning how to balance all of that and prioritize is really important in high school so that you're prepared when you get into college. Academic factors in recruitment. So, like I said, it can help you open doors, okay? But they are still going to look at your transcript and your GPA. They want to make sure that you're going to be successful at that school, okay? And that you're going to be a good fit for their student body, okay? SAT scores and ACT scores are a little bit different these days because the NCAA has gone test optional, but that does not mean the colleges that may be recruiting your child will be test optional. So that is definitely going to be an important conversation. On the high school level, we can talk later about it, but we do still require the students to take an SAT and an ACT kind of for those purposes. But there are so many different factors that colleges are going to look at, okay? The timeline. So when we're talking college athletics, they are going to look at your high school transcript. They're going to look 9 through 12, okay? Now, for sports purposes, they will look at other things, but for academics, they're going to look at you 9 through 12, okay? Mr. Fernandez spoke about this briefly, okay? And this is kind of also talking about NCAA. So in the 10th grade, okay, the coaches can come and they can speak to our coaches, okay? And this can vary by sport. So please know that these are general rules because some sports are a little different than others when it comes to recruiting and eligibility rules. In the 11th grade, okay, college coaches can contact the prospective students, okay? And that is when the students begin taking their actual SAT and ACT. So junior year is a big year for the recruiting process. That's when a lot of this really starts to move and shake the coaches and the communication between. And then in 12th grade is when the offers come, kind of leading into 12th grade, verbal commitments, applications, official signings. So these are a lot of hot topics, okay? Offers, you can get a variety of offers, okay? But at the end of the day, you're gonna commit to one school, okay? Make a verbal commitment, okay? But when you sign is when it actually is in writing, okay? And that's when it goes through. Application. There is also this misconception that sometimes students don't have to apply if they're going into a recruited athlete, okay? All students have to apply to the college that they will be matriculating at. They're part of the student numbers, and that's just part of their process, okay? And then we do have official signing days here at Gulliver, and there are national signing days. So we kind of align with the national signing days, right? And Laz is a little bit more well-versed on this than I am, but they're usually, certain days are for certain sports, okay? NCAA and AIA, okay? So they spoke a little bit about these portals and kind of what's going on. We recommend the students do the registration and the eligibility center, okay? Once they come to high school, okay? That is so the colleges can kind of check things out on their end. We send all the communication, all the transcripts, all that stuff that you need to put in the portal, and that's kind of how the colleges can get a view, okay? Eligibility factors, okay? Our athletic department actually works pretty much in sync with what colleges are looking for, so know that our students have to have a 2.3, things like that, and above. Obviously, all of your students are doing much better than that, right? But there are certain rules on the eligibility side, NCAA and AIA, that have to do with factors and being able to play and all of those things. Okay. So factors for fit. We're a big important thing for us is fit, whether it's for college, just for a regular academic student, or if you're going for athletics, okay? You are gonna find your home for the next 4 years. It's really important you find a school and an environment where you're gonna be happy, you're gonna flourish, and you're gonna do well, okay? You need to feel connected in that space. So these are all really important factors for college in general, and also apply when you're looking for college when it comes to athletics, okay? So location, that's a really big one. If you wanna see your child play, okay? You wanna see how hard it is to get to an airport, okay? If you're playing in West Virginia, which is a great opportunity, you need to know that you have to maybe fly into a feeder airport, then you have to drive 2 hours to get to your school. These are just important factors to consider, right? Class size. If you're a student that has done better in a smaller setting, or you know that you want to expand on your setting, you want to think about these things. So although you are being recruited, it's really your decision in the end as well. And so we want to make sure that it's a decision that's right for your family, where, like we said, your student's going to flourish, do well, and achieve all of their goals. They do have to apply, like we talked about. They will do essays for the colleges, okay? And they will need letters of recommendation, okay? So we will work through that. The college counseling program here is very solid. I can speak to that. So know that if you're on the middle school side, once you get to high school, we will walk you through a lot of this, okay? Mr. Torres is gonna speak now.
I laughed that they asked me to do social media and I don't even use my own. But through my years of coaching, I've actually used social media as a tool to monitor my student athletes, as a tool to help them get recruited, and as a tool to interact with coaches. So this is kind of right up my alley. A couple things. I mean, this can go a lot of ways, but I'm actually going to try to stick to the script here. Mr. Davidson alluded to it earlier. Every sport is different. Recruitment is different in every sport. Some are based on measurables, how far you can hit a golf ball, tennis, scores, swimming times. And then there's other sports like volleyball, basketball, where the recruitment is just a little more of an inexact science, okay? Social media is one of the first interactions you have with a coach. Coaches learn about a lot from your posts. before they even speak to the athlete. They know who you follow, who follows you, how you interact, what your work ethic's like, what you do on your free time, who your coaches are, what you like and what you don't like. So understand that coaches get a glimpse into your life as an athlete prior to even beginning to speak with you. So social media is very important. What type of student athlete does your social media presence portray? It's something to think about and something I constantly remind athletes about. Film. Film is important to your social media presence. Please make sure you're recording your meets, your games. When you put it together, coaches are usually, once they interact, they're going to start asking for film if you do get to that point. So I cannot stress enough, film, if it's not available, if you go out, you might have to take a video camera off of your phone. The quality doesn't really matter, but as long as they can see. So film is drastically important to your social media presence. Some questions to think about as you build your social media presence. What kind of player do you want to position yourself as? Okay, my recommendation is that you build this around a specific skill set or position. Okay, try to be very specific. As you progress into the higher levels as an athlete, your skill sets need to become more defined. You're competing not just nationally, but internationally in many sports. So try to center your social media presence around a skill set or a certain position. What does that mean? In basketball, am I a shooter? Am I a point guard? In soccer, am I a striker? Am I an outside hitter in volleyball? Is it my passing ability, my defense? Try to really focus in, okay? What this helps, it helps a college coach clearly identify where you fit into their system, okay? What position, do you look like a player that's currently on their roster? Can you fill that spot? You take the guesswork out of the recruitment process. This is a tool that's underutilized and drastically important. Why? A lot of college coaches are good recruiters, but poor evaluators. That is just my personal opinion. Okay, they're great at recruiting, but when it comes out to evaluating, they're going to ask, well, who else? They're going to ask, they've asked me, who else is recruiting him or her? What team are they playing on? They want kind of that reassurance that they can play at that level. Okay. So try to really center around a specific skill, okay? Does your post, highlights, and film reflect that skill? Something to think about. And just make sure these align. Am I portraying, if I'm trying to define, if I'm trying to say I'm this type of player, does my social media presence reflect that, okay? Take the guesswork out of it. It's something that's really good in the recruitment process. Second thing, who are you tagging, okay? Nowadays, everyone has a highlight reel. Are you tagging your local mixtape person for views? Are you tagging college coaches? Are you tagging scouting services that may help you get recruited? All these serve a purpose. They all yield results. Okay, I'm not diminishing any one, but just be very conscious of who you're tagging. If it's if you had a great game and you think this is something a college coach wants to see, great. I would tag the college coaches, those schools you are interested in. Okay, if it's just for fun, you did something with your friends, great. Tag your local people, that great. It builds your brand locally, and it builds your brand for the college. Okay, platforms. Make sure you're using both Instagram and Twitter. Okay, why Twitter? College coaches generally tend to be older in age. Scouting services generally tend to use Twitter more, okay? Athletes and younger college coaches will use Instagram. So I cannot stress enough, be on both platforms, be visible on both platforms. If you're posting videos, post them on both platforms. Develop a recruitment plan that includes social media. We talked about it earlier. Your plan should be one, identify your skill set and style of play. As you're researching schools, does their style of play match my skill set? If it doesn't, I'm probably not very recruitable for that school, okay? Identify schools at a level you think you fit in both skill set and style of play. When you're researching these schools, research their playing style, research their coaching staff. Another important tool, research their rosters. Who's graduating that year? Is there a spot for my child, or is there a spot for the athlete? There may not be a spot if everyone that's had success and is starting is a freshman or a sophomore. There may not be a spot on that roster. You may want to go there, but it just may not be the year they're looking for somebody in that spot. What are those athletes' measurables? Every athlete has a bio on most websites. They have a hometown they came from. That's important. It's a clue into where those college coaches recruit. Do they recruit in the South Florida area, in the area? Or are they only recruiting in the Northeast or in the West Coast? You may have to do a little more work if they're not really recruiting in your area, okay? Contact and tag the recruiting coordinators or assistant coaches to introduce yourself. What do I do? How do I introduce myself? Send an academic profile. We talked about film, send a link to a video. High school schedules, game schedules, and travel team schedules. If you play on a travel team, make sure to include those. Include contact information for the athlete and their coaches, okay? As parents, we may want to talk to the coach and express how, but they want more opinions. They want to know from the coach. They want to know from the travel coach. They want to know from whatever team they may be on or whoever they interact with. They want to know more about the athlete. So that's important. We talked about earlier, attend the school's elite camp if you're really interested in that school in order to get in front of their coaches. Okay, usually if you're talking an Ivy League school, or you're talking a Division III, Tufts, some of those schools come to mind, their recruiting budgets are very small. Okay, if you can get in there academically, great. You might want to go to the elite camp and get in front of those coaches. Okay, it'll give you a leg up. It'll express interest as far as, yes, I can get accepted to the school, and B, I'd like to play at this school. Okay, if you have that opportunity, I recommend doing it. Don't be afraid to ask coaches what tournaments or camps they'll be attending in the off season or the summer. I think this is drastically important. Okay, many people, yeah, well, I'll send video, but a coach may be attending, if you're a play on a travel team in volleyball, for instance, a coach may be attending the tournament. I'd rather know the coach is at the tournament than find out afterwards that coach was there. Because then I can give them the schedule, tell them what court I'm on, they can watch me play, and they can get it. I'll know I played in front of those coaches, or at least gave them the opportunity to evaluate me. So do not be afraid to ask where they'll be attending. Usually their schedules, they'll say they'll know closer to a week or two before, but don't be afraid to ask that. Be persistent about that. And then lastly, be flexible. Adjust your plan to cater to what's working and what's not working. Some of these methods may work, some of them may not work. I may fill out an interest form and say, I never heard again from the coach, and I give up on that. Some coaches are not good at checking emails, okay? So again, a lot of the coaches, a lot of the colleges, where they're structured, the head coach, the assistant coaches do most of the preliminary recruiting. So contact recruiting coordinators, contact assistant coaches. A couple notes here. In the recruiting process and in identifying schools, okay, it's not very different from applying to colleges. And I'm not speaking for college counselors, but you have a couple reach schools, you have a couple realistic schools, and you have a couple safety schools. Okay, this is important in athletic recruiting. Okay, you may try to, I only want to go to these reach schools, but realistically, you're going to get the feedback to let you know where your athlete is. Okay, I talked about earlier wants versus needs. You may want to go to a program, they may not need a person in your position. Okay, so make sure you look at those rosters. Athletes, I say, don't get caught up comparing yourself to other prospects. This is a process. The process is different for every single athlete. Please understand that. And last, remember, you only need one coach to identify your talent. One coach to like you in this process. One coach. I had a student athlete who a Division II school came to watch him one year, and he played the worst game of his life. It was basketball. Played the worst game of his life. He had about 8 turnovers in the first half, no points. He just was atrocious, okay? I knew he was a great player. I had to tell him the next day, you know what? You only need one coach to like you. That coach may never come back. Great. You know how many colleges are out there? He went to University of Georgia, played at Dayton, and a Division II school thought he wasn't good enough. So you can turn around, you only need one coach to like you, and I can't stress that enough. Okay, don't lose confidence in the process as you go through this. And on the same token, get some early wins in recruiting. Okay, if those if you want to be a Division I athlete and a Division III coach is currently recruiting you, go through the process. You'll get to evaluate, you'll learn about the recruiting process from each coach, what they think of you as a player, your position, and you'll also learn how to communicate with coaches. And you'll go through the process, okay? There's something to be learned from each coach and each process, okay? Contact with coaches. Make sure you respond to coaches, okay? If you're receiving a lot of interest, some of you may, and you're highly recruitable, don't be afraid to create boundaries. Coach, I'm available to talk. I have school till 4 o'clock. If you call me after 7 o'clock, coaches will do it. They have no problem. They'd rather do that than call you at 12, 4, 6, and you never respond because you can't talk. Communicate. It's a part of growing up, and we encourage you guys to really communicate, okay? For the athletes, or everybody here, in conversations, what do coaches generally want they generally want to get a feel for your interests and a feel for you as an athlete, okay? Your playing experience, how and where you see yourself in their program, what your experience and level have been, family structure and social circles, who do you hang out with, who your coach is, who are your parents, tell me about some of that, where did you grow up? They're also trying to gain insight in who will be helping to make your college decision if you are a highly recruitable athlete, okay? They want to know who your social circle is and your family structure. They want to know your academic strength and your priorities, okay? And most times they'll already have talked to a coach, okay? So they just want to reinforce what the coach has told them. So that's why it's very difficult. Coaches need to be very clear and very transparent, okay, with college coaches. Okay, it's difficult for coaches to lie and then they have a conversation with the student athlete and hear a different story. Okay, we're trying to keep credibility, transparency, honesty, integrity in this whole process. Okay, contact with coaches. Another thing, the coaching community is very small in your sport and very transient. Coaches move schools year to year. They move up and down levels, Division I, Division II. They live in different places, okay? So they may not be able to recruit you at the school they're currently at or their level, but because they moved schools and developed contacts, they may call the coach and said, you know what, I just went out to the pool and I saw a great water polo player. They may not be for my school, but I really think they'd be a great fit for your level. So I encourage the athletes also understand somebody may be getting recruited on their team and a college coach may come watch them, but there are so many other opportunities for all the other athletes at that practice or at that game, okay? So don't just say, oh, they're here for that person. You're being watched constantly, okay? And make sure to always maintain a respectful and positive relationship with each college coach. On the same token, everybody hears about collegiate transfer portal. A year or two down the line, you may not be very happy at the school you're currently at, and you're looking to transfer now. It's easier for your high school coach, your travel coach, to pick up the phone and call a coach that was recruiting you before and have you at their school now, okay? College coaches, perfect example, someone who was at University of Richmond, didn't like the experience in the sport. I knew this person great, called another coach, that coach, they want to transfer, great. That coach was like, I'd love to have them, okay? It's not because you didn't go to their school, they're mad at you. Please understand that, Okay, this is a business, this is their livelihood, in college they call it bounce backs. We'd love to have them bounce back to us. They'll make us competitive right now. So please be respectful and maintain trust in that process, because you may be looking for another school soon, okay? Last thing I'll touch on is name, image, and likeness. This is new this year, okay? It's a policy at the collegiate level where students, athletes can now profit off of their personal brand. They can use their entrepreneurial spirit to attain sponsorship from local businesses and corporations. University of Miami, they just had an article in the Miami Herald the other day. You know, right now student athletes are profiting off of their social media, off of their posts, off of their brand, okay? So you may hear a little bit about it at the higher levels, getting into it. If you do hear about it, that's what it is. You may have a local H&R Block that wants to sponsor a student, and it's a way to help those students make some money in college. So if you do hear about it, that is what name, image, and likeness is. It's new this year, and we're currently going through it at the collegiate level. Still trying to understand a lot of it, but we're a little up here. Thank you. I don't have to. Oh, I did.
Good evening, my name's Lee Husband, and you may ask why the upper school testing coordinator is speaking about college athletics. A couple of reasons. I've been at Gulliver for 15 years in this role, but for 17 years prior to coming here, I worked in college athletics. I also am married to a former professional soccer player. My father-in-law was a professional soccer player, so my son, I'm also a parent of a Gulliver former athlete who I think he was a two-sport athlete. He peaked maybe 8th grade, and he was a two-time Cy Young Award winner at the middle school for baseball, but that's where his career peaked. So, but I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. I think Ms. Capel talked about it a little bit. In-season and off-season commitment. College athletics is a whole different ballgame. They basically have 2 full-time jobs as a college athlete. You are an athlete for 40 plus hours a week, and then you're expected to be a full-time student as well. And it's tough to juggle it. And they will be, like she said, she spoke to somebody today who their football players are often, many athletes are up 5 in the morning, going to the training room, workouts in the morning prior to school, going to school, tutoring, study hall, all these things. So there are in-season commitments in terms of what your practice is going to be like, you know, your dedicated practice time, and then out-of-season commitments where it's still dedicated practice time. So as a college athlete, it's pretty much a 12-month academic calendar where there's not a lot of downtime. So that's something to really think about. I mean, especially, it doesn't make a difference if it's Division 1, 2, or 3. They pretty much put in the same type of commitment. But many athletes are expected to go to summer school, either for 1 term, sometimes both terms. But I would think about that also, about the type of commitment level that you and your child want to make for the college level. I'm going to also talk about coaches. Pick a university, and we've talked about fit, but pick some place that you would feel comfortable with, maybe if the coach isn't there. The coach is not committed to you or your child. The coach is committed to themselves, so they may get a better job opportunity someplace else. They may not have the season that they had anticipated, and the decision to stay may not be their choice. College coaches change so frequently. So I would say really think about that. Yes, you want to have a good relationship with the head coach. That's the person a lot of times that you may have your first contact with. You may also develop a really strong relationship with your position coach. That person could become a head coach somewhere else. So it's really about the overall fit, not just because you really like the coach. So that's something that's very, very important. Academic life, you know, academics are going to be strenuous, I think, in any college. But you want to think about what the academic life is in the big picture? Is there a specific major that you want to study? If you want to be an architecture major, it is nearly impossible to be a college athlete. In my 17 years, I had one architecture student, and it was a volleyball player at the University of Miami, and her coach had to change the practice schedule every semester around that student's, around her schedule, because with a major like that, they are lockstep classes. Basically, everybody in architecture takes this class, and then takes this class. So there wasn't much flexibility in the student-athlete schedule, but the coach worked to do that. I mean, with volleyball, you're talking about 12 to 15 players. It's a little more difficult to do that with a rowing team, with a football team. So choice of major is very important. If that's very important to you, your fit for college might look a little different than somebody just looking to major in something in the College of Arts and Sciences. Maybe they don't even know what they want to major, but if you already have a specific major, you need to make sure that that will work with the colleges that you're looking at in terms of athletics. Like I said, incompatible major would be architecture. Athletics related majors could be anything. I was an academic, my role when I worked in college athletics, I was an academic advisor for the athletes. So I worked with people student athletes in all different majors. Pretty much any major works, but again, it might be a little bit different. It might be different for a chemistry major who has to schedule labs than somebody that's a sports administration major. So you have to think about things like that. But most majors can fit in. It's just what type of schedule you want to have. Do you want to have a 6:25 chemistry lab at night after you've had 2 hours of practice? So there are other majors that work better, but I would never tell you to change your major based on being an athlete. You can tailor it and you can choose an institution that will work with you and a program that will work with you. Supports, that's going to be my favorite one to talk about because that's what I did in college athletics. Almost any college that a student athlete would go to, they are going to have a person that is an academic advisor specifically for them. I traveled everywhere with men's basketball, and I worked at Miami for 11 years. I was at Indiana University for 2 years. I was at Marquette University in Milwaukee. My main focus was always men's and women's basketball. I did work with some other sports, but because of the amount of class time that they missed, I traveled with them. I ran study hall on the road with them. I was talking to their professors before going on the road with them. I was proctoring exams for them. I was not taking the exams or helping them. I'm not in any other ethical way. They didn't want me to help them in math classes or anything like that. But there are many support services. Also on college campuses, there are offices of disability services. As much as I'm the testing coordinator here, I'm also the disability coordinator here. So our student athletes who maybe have, or any of our students here who have a learning disability, I help them get their accommodations here at school. I also sometimes help them at the college level, but every college has an office of disability services that will also work with the student athletes if they have their documentation, and they can get those types of supports as well. Almost every university athletic program has free tutoring for the student athletes. I always told when I was meeting with Recruit, I always told the family, your child has to want to fail academically at institution X, Y, or Z, because there are so many people that are there to help them. The coach is going to be on top of them. Probably the head coach, the position coach, operations person, academic advisor. In athletics, then there's an academic advisor that they may have in their general major. So there are a lot of people that are holding their hands. And as long as the student buys into it, they will be successful. When they fight us and they skip study hall and stuff like that, it's a little different. And the coach probably is going to have a couple of choice words with them, maybe a 6 a.m. run with them, different things. But there are so many different support services that, like I said, a student athlete has to want to fail to not be successful. What else? I think Laz Fernandez talked about need-based financial aid. In order for a student to qualify for that, they have to fill out the FAFSA, which is a federal application where you'll have to submit your tax returns and things like that, and then the CSS profile. All this comes when going through the college application program. And during 11th grade, when the counselors start working with the students, this becomes something that they talk a lot about during senior year as well. But know that for need-based financial aid, that's all based on family income. So that would be something to take into consideration. Academic merit scholarships. Coaches for specific, well, coaches for every sport love really smart students. Coaches for specific sports love them even more because there's different types of scholarships. There's like football, if you are offered a football, some Division I football scholarship, that includes room, board, and tuition. It's basically the full cost of attendance. Baseball, not so much. Baseball, I think, has 11.1, I don't even know, I think 11.1 scholarships that they divide up amongst a roster of over 25 baseball players. Almost nobody gets a full baseball athletic scholarship. Coaches want kids to be able to get academic money, maybe some financial aid, and then the whole package comes together. But there are different types of athletic scholarships in terms of what sports your child is participating in. Head count and equivalency are what they're called. And head count means everybody on that team, if they're on scholarship, gets this full scholarship. Equivalency, it divides it up amongst the players. But academic merit scholarship, that can be worked into a package as well. And then athletic scholarships, like we talked about earlier, if you had a funnel, I used to present at men's basketball camps, and I would have this big number up top, the amount of student athletes that are playing a varsity sport at the high school level, and then funnel it down to the amount that get Division I, 2, or 3 scholarships. It's a very small percentage. We're not here to crush your dreams. We're here to help you, but we want you to know how realistic it is for a student to be offered an athletic scholarship. We're lucky. We're out here at Gulliver. We have incredible athletic programs. We have incredible athletes. We have incredible students. So altogether, we do have the total package, and we're very successful in working with our student athletes to get to that level. So just know that it's everybody who plays, obviously, everybody who plays a high school sport is not going to be going on to college to play an athletic sport, and it'll be very few that get that full or even get a partial scholarship. I'm not going to talk about NIL because we had Andre already speak about it, but I think that's it for me. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Fernandez. You are welcome.
Just to add to what Mrs. Husband said, if you take all these divisions and all these opportunities to play college sports, in the United States, 3% get to play college sports. Very important that as you guys navigate the recruiting process together with your child, that you keep that into consideration. We'll send you guys an email. These are the NCAA and NIA websites, so you get familiarized with them. It's very important that you do. The NCAA, this is the .com website. There's also a .org, which is more of the operation of the NCAA, but you can get that as well. And again, all the websites that you're interested in, the college that your child is interested in attending, very important that you research those. That's why I just want to add, Andre talked about recruiting companies that come out and try to solicit your business so they can help you get your child recruited. Those are helpful, and CSA is one of the more popular ones. Just as you do your research before you commit, make sure that it really is going to benefit your child. And lastly, we have a student athlete handbook that kind of outlines the college recruiting process, what you should be able to expect. We'll email this to you. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us as well. More importantly, we have examples of how to write an email to a coach or write a letter. Letters are obsolete, but again, that's a manual for you to follow to help you through the recruiting process. And lastly, this QR code, strongly recommend that you scan it with your camera. It lets you know about all the sports, when the recruiting season starts, when it ends, when there's a dead period of time where the coach can't communicate with you or your child. But in any case, It breaks down every sport on how the recruiting calendar or the recruiting process works. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We hope to have more informational sessions like this in regards to the college recruiting process. Thank you so much, and go Raiders.